I never imagined that day would come, the day Claire, my daughter-in-law, spat in my face. 40 years this house had been mine, the place I raised my children, where I built a life full of memories and love. And there, in that familiar dining room, right in front of my grandson Lucas, Claire's spit slid down my cheek like a slow-motion slap. It wasn't just humiliation, it was a deep, shattering betrayal. For so many years, I gave everything to my family. I raised my children alone after my husband passed, managed every bill, kept the house running, and lived independently. I was proud of my strength, my resilience. But after my heart attack 3 years ago, everything changed. Jake and Claire moved in, saying they were here to take care of me. At first, I welcomed the help. But slowly, day by day, I felt my freedom slipping away, the control over my finances, my social life, even my own home. That night, as Claire yelled at Lucas for spilling his juice, I gently asked her to calm down. That small plea triggered something unexpected. Claire turned on me, furious that I dared to speak up in her house. Then in a moment so raw and shocking, she spat in my face. The room fell silent, but inside me, something ignited. Lucas, just 6 years old, was frozen in fear. His muffled sobs echoed in the silence, reminding me that this wasn't just about me. This was about protecting him, about standing up for the family I loved, even when it felt like I was alone. Jake sat there silently, eyes fixed on his plate, unwilling to defend me. Nobody did anymore. That silence, that abandonment, it cut deeper than Claire's words or actions. But it didn't break me. If anything, it awakened a fierce determination I hadn't felt in years. I realized I wasn't powerless, not yet. If you've ever felt invisible in your own home, betrayed by those you trusted most, I want you to know you're not alone. This story is for every woman who's had to find strength in the darkest moments. Please stay with me as I share what happened next, how I found my voice again, and fought to reclaim my life. If this resonates with you, please like, share, and comment. Your story matters. We're in this together. After that humiliating day, I found myself retreating into the smallest, most unfamiliar room of my own home, a cramped guest bedroom that had once been my sewing room. The walls felt like they were closing in on me, but inside, the woman who had raised 2 children alone managed a household through every hardship and carried grief like a quiet burden was still there. She hadn't disappeared. She was just waiting to be found again. I spent many evenings sitting on the edge of that narrow bed, hands clenched tightly in my lap, replaying what had happened. The sting of betrayal from my own son and daughter-in-law was unbearable. How could they do this to me? How could Jake sit silently, refusing to protect me, while Claire humiliated me in my own home? But anger, as sharp as it was, soon turned into resolve. I wasn't going to disappear into silence or helplessness. I began to quietly collect evidence, pieces of a puzzle I needed to solve to reclaim my life. I searched the house, eventually finding hidden documents in a panel behind the hallway wall, a safe my late husband had installed years ago, which Jake thought he had completely forgotten about. Inside were investment papers, rental agreements, and insurance policies that told a story very different from the one Claire and Jake had been telling me. The truth hit me like a wave. For years, they had been siphoning money from my accounts, selling off investments without my knowledge, diverting rental income from a small downtown property I owned. Worse, they had plans to move me into a care facility, against my wishes, to finally take full control of my house. One night, as I sat with Lucas after his bedtime, he whispered something that tore my heart apart but also steeled my will. "Grandma," he said softly, "Dad says we have to be patient because you're old and sick." The innocence in his voice was heartbreaking. The child's understanding of a world filled with adult cruelty was too much for me. Yet, his words also reminded me why I had to fight. For him, for myself, for every moment of dignity and love still left in this home. I reached out quietly, first to my longtime cardiologist, Dr. Simmons. He had cared for me for over a decade, knew my history, and was one of the few people I still saw regularly outside of my home. When I confided in him about the isolation and control I was experiencing, he listened carefully and urged me to get help. But most importantly, he became my medical advocate, giving me legitimate reasons to leave the house for appointments and checkups, where I could meet others who would help me. Through church, I reconnected with a dear friend named Judith. She had noticed how I had withdrawn from the community, how I stopped attending services and events, all supposedly because of my health. Judith refused to let me disappear. She became my steadfast ally, visiting regularly under the guise of helping with medication and chores, but really helping me document conversations, collect evidence, and remind me of the strength I still had inside. The final piece of my secret support team was Victoria Chen, a sharp, no-nonsense elder law attorney recommended by Judith. Victoria helped me understand my rights and what I was up against. She pored over financial statements and legal documents, confirming what I feared. Claire and Jake's control was not temporary or caring. It was calculated and ruthless. I learned to wear the mask they wanted to see, a fragile, confused older woman who needed help. I shuffled slowly when they were watching, repeated simple questions, and let them believe I was fading. This act was exhausting, but necessary. It lowered their guard, making them careless, and gave me more opportunities to gather proof of their schemes. Behind closed doors, I was preparing for a battle I never thought I'd have to fight. The loneliness was crushing. The betrayal cut deep, but a quiet strength grew in me, one piece at a time, one day at a time. I wasn't just reclaiming my home and money, I was reclaiming my identity and my dignity. And as I held Lucas close on those long nights, I promised myself that no matter what happened, I would fight, not just for me, but for him. Because every family deserves respect, every mother deserves justice, and every woman deserves to be heard. The moment I'd been waiting for finally arrived when Emma, my daughter, landed from California. She had no idea how much was happening beneath the surface, how much betrayal, how many secrets Jake and Claire had hidden from her and me both. Emma's presence alone gave me strength, but together, we knew we could no longer fight in the shadows. We decided to call a family gathering, a lunch that seemed innocent enough to Jake and Claire. They didn't suspect the storm that was about to break in that familiar dining room, once the scene of silence and fear, now the place where truth would finally be spoken aloud. As the guests arrived, friends from church, my trusted cardiologist, Dr. Simmons, Pastor Daniels, who had baptized my children, and Victoria, my attorney, the atmosphere shifted. This wasn't just a family reunion. It was a courtroom, a sanctuary, a place of reckoning. I sat at the head of the table, steady and calm. Emma took my hand, a silent show of support that steadied my nerves. When the time felt right, I began to speak. I've spent the last 3 years watching my home and my life slowly taken from me. I was told I was too sick, too old, too confused to manage anything for myself. But that was never true. My voice, once weak and hesitant, now rang with conviction. I have proof, documents, recordings, medical evaluations that show how Jake and Claire have controlled me, isolated me, and stolen from me. Victoria handed out folders filled with bank statements showing withdrawals and transfers I'd never authorized, contracts for my downtown property rental that sent money to accounts I didn't recognize. There were emails between Jake and Claire discussing care facilities and plans to sell the house once I was out of the way. Claire's face flushed red, her usual composure cracking. Jake's eyes darted nervously around the room, unable to meet anyone's gaze. "This isn't just money," I continued, voice steady but fierce. "It's my dignity, my independence, the trust I placed in the people I loved most, and I will not let that be taken from me any longer." Pastor Daniels spoke next, his voice gentle but firm. "We have watched Martha's absence from our community, always told it was because of her health. But the truth is, she was pushed away, isolated from those who care." Dr. Simmons confirmed my medical evaluations, emphasizing my competence and ability to live independently with appropriate support. The room was heavy with the weight of truth. The facade Jake and Claire had built began to crumble, brick by brick. Jake finally stammered, We only wanted what was best for Mom. She didn't understand how to manage things anymore." I looked at him, the boy I raised, the man who betrayed me. "Best for me? Best for who?" I asked quietly but sharply. The answer was silence. Victoria then delivered the final blow, legal documents ordering Jake and Claire to vacate the house within 5 days. The house that had been stolen from me was finally being returned. But as I stood there, victorious in the eyes of the law, I knew this wasn't just about reclaiming a house or money. It was about reclaiming my voice, my place in this family, and setting an example for my grandson Lucas. That day, Lucas saw something important. He saw that no matter how unfair life can feel, strength, truth, and justice can prevail. And for me, that was the greatest victory of all. The fight was far from over, but the tide had turned. I was no longer the silent victim. I was a woman who had found her voice again, ready to reclaim her life on her own terms. In the months that followed that pivotal day, life began to take on a new shape, fragile, but full of hope and healing. Emma and I grew closer than we had been in years. Her surprise visit had not only saved me, but reignited a bond that had frayed under years of distance and unspoken pain. She became my steadfast companion, helping me rebuild not just my home, but the fractured family ties that had been strained by betrayal. Jake's response to the confrontation was complex. He agreed to seek counseling, a difficult but necessary step toward understanding the damage he had caused, not only financially but emotionally. Slowly, he began making restitution payments to repair what he had taken. But trust is not something that can be rebuilt overnight. I had to protect my heart while allowing space for the possibility of change. For the sake of my grandson Lucas and for myself, I chose a cautious path toward forgiveness, not forgetting, but learning to let go of the bitterness that could consume me. This journey taught me many things. Most importantly, it showed me that dignity and respect do not come with age. They are rights we all deserve, at every stage of life. Independence isn't just about managing money or decisions. It's about being heard, valued, and loved. And sometimes the greatest strength lies in knowing when to ask for help and when to stand firm for yourself. I also learned the profound power of forgiveness. It's not always about pardoning those who have hurt us. Sometimes it's a gift we give ourselves, a way to free our own hearts from the weight of anger and resentment. Forgiveness became my path to peace, even when the scars remained. Throughout this time, I found a new purpose beyond my personal struggle. Inspired by my experience, I began advocating for other seniors who were suffering quietly, hidden behind closed doors. Through Real Her Stories, I shared my journey, not to dwell on pain, but to inspire courage, to show that it's never too late to reclaim your voice and your life. Many women reached out to me, their stories echoing the pain I had endured. Together, we formed a community of strength and support, a place where our stories could be told, our voices heard, and our lives renewed. Lucas grew up surrounded by this healing. Our weekends together became a sanctuary of joy and learning, where I shared stories of resilience and hope, teaching him that family is complicated, but love endures. Watching him grow into a thoughtful, kind young boy reminded me that even in the darkest chapters, light can be found. To everyone listening today, I want you to know, if you are struggling in silence, you are not alone. Your story matters, your voice matters, and it is never too late to stand up for yourself, to seek help, and to find your strength. It's easy to feel isolated when the people closest to us turn their backs, or when we think no one will believe us. But I've learned that sharing our experiences is the first step toward healing. Opening up, even just a little, can light the way through the darkest moments. There are people who care deeply, friends, neighbors, professionals who want to listen and help. You don't have to carry the burden alone. Age does not diminish your worth or your right to be treated with kindness and respect. No matter how many years have passed, your voice still holds power. Your wisdom, your courage, your love, they all matter. And when you choose to speak up, you inspire others to find their voices too. That ripple effect can change lives, families, and communities. Sometimes the hardest part is believing in yourself again, believing that you deserve peace, happiness, and dignity. But every small step forward, every moment you reclaim your power, is a victory. You may face setbacks or doubts, but don't let them define you. Remember, you have survived so much already. The strength inside you is greater than you realize. If you are watching this, I encourage you to reach out to someone you trust, to a support group, or even to share your story here. Your courage can be the light someone else needs. Together, we can create a community of hope, healing, and empowerment, where no one has to suffer in silence. Your journey matters, your life matters, and there is a future waiting for you filled with dignity, love, and renewed strength. Take that first step today. You are stronger than you know. Thank you for hearing my story. If it has touched you, inspired you, or given you hope, please subscribe, share, and join our community at Real Her Stories. Together, we can help more women find the courage to reclaim their lives and their dignity. Remember, your journey is your own, but you don't have to walk it alone. There is power in sharing, in connecting, and in standing strong, no matter your age. This is not the end of my story, but a new beginning. and I am grateful to take that step with all of you.